Eva woke with a start and a resolution. She had to start up her social life again or she would wither away. Sitting up, she remembered the incident of the night before. The very same one that had made up her mind for her. His mistress had been gifted her card while she had been stripped of the allowances she received every month, making her an official ghost wife. She refused to exist as a total liability at the mercy of her merciless husband. With a bit of money, she'd taken a good deal of shit. Without it, she would be a slave. Her bath was quick and her choice of outfit quicker. As soon as she was presentable, she made her way out of the house. Not surprised to find no driver available to drive her around. This wouldn't be the first time. For no reason other than a simple question or argument, he would deprive her of everything. But this time she knew her credit card was gone for good, and all because she didn't play the perfect love-struck hostess to his friends who'd come visiting the day before. How could she pretend to be happy when she hosted them while he played lover to his mistress? Did they all think her a robot? She had rebelled openly, leaving the hostessing to the maids while his friends teased him about his loss of control over her, making him angry and ready to punish her as if she were a child. These thoughts and more filled her head as she made her way to the company that had invited her for an interview. It was a high-profile company, very much like her husband's, and as she made her way to the manager's office, she prayed all would go according to plan. The manager, Mr. Wexley, greeted her warmly and offered her a seat like she were someone of great importance. She'd expected a more formal reception and seemed at a loss for a minute. Where she'd expected interview questions, she got disappointment instead. Mr. Wexley revealed that although her CV was impressive and he would have loved to know more about her work experiences and future plans for his organization, she had lied about her marital status, hiding the fact that she was married to a prominent man and was a high-standing shareholder in her husband's company. Her social status practically made her the manager's superior, and as such, he could not employ her. Eva saw red as Craig's scheme shone through the manager like fingerprints revealed only by mercury lights. His spies had revealed her plan and spoiled her efforts. She felt her hair stand in protest like serpents ready to strike. She felt her darkness punch the daylights out of her light and caught the manager off guard with a rage only her dark side could give. Her rage had disappeared by the time she got home, giving way to hopeless disappointment. The maids greeted her, but she didn't reply. Spies, the whole lot of them. Cursed spies. And was that Craig's voice she was hearing upstairs? She made for his bedroom, her anger returning. That space had always been shut to her, but today, she barged in without knocking and didn't spare his mistress so much as a glance. How dare you? She began, her voice disturbingly too composed for someone so mad. Try to destroy my chances to earn for myself? You have trampled, disgraced, humiliated and turned me into a shadow of myself, all because I married you. I never see or smell your money but for the pitiful stipends you give me. My clothes are top-notch. A facade. You made sure I had nothing and I had to endure it. But then you snatched my stipend card to your mistress's collection and want me to live like a ghost? Should I show you what a ghost can do? Craig was so taken by surprise at the venom in her voice that for a moment he could not speak but only stare at a version of Eva he never knew could exist. I was a quiet ghost, hoping you'd be nice to me someday. Everyone thinks I enjoy high and mighty privileges when it all ends with my clothes. I'm the reason you inherited everything. Had I known that was what you married me for, I'd have made my own claims too. But no matter. My silence has ended, she fired out. For the first time in their 3 years of marriage, Craig could not defend himself properly. Eva refused to listen to anything he tried to say until he gave up and walked out on her with his mistress. Helping herself to a chair in Craig's home office, she picked up her smartphone and texted her brother requesting they meet up for lunch as she had something important to discuss with him. She felt a great weight lifted off her shoulders after her outburst. She would not back down. She would give Craig a taste of his own medicine. Settling for a simple black dress and golden jewelry, she took a taxi again to the grand restaurant where she planned to lunch with her brother. It was one of her favorite restaurants because it was the most affordable to her with the little allowances she'd gotten every month from Craig. Plus the food was amazing. It wasn't long before she spotted him and made her way to his table with a cheerful smile on her face. Gabriel, who had been but a child 3 years ago, was a man now. All businesslike in a nice suit. He was equally happy to see her and they had a nice afternoon catching up on old times and the present. She informed him about all she'd been through and her desire to restart up one of their father's small business that had fallen on bad times. That shouldn't be a problem, Gabriel informed. In fact, Grandma left you her property upon her passing and some good old money to set you up comfortably in life. She also requested that you visit her gravesite upon her passing. You were always her favorite, you know. Now I understand why you couldn't hang out with us much. I couldn't visit you either. Craig warned me never to visit again. I'd have told you sooner, but we didn't know your stand and decided to hold the info until we could reach you personally. Eva could not believe what she'd just heard. Of course Grandma had always been fond of her, but to give her the mansion and some good old money? She no longer needed jobs for survival. Now she could live well. Now she could hold her head up higher without fear or worry. The good news increased her appetite, and lunching with Gabriel was so much fun she didn't want it to end. It had been too long since she'd seen her baby brother, and she didn't have the heart to let him go so easily. There was so much to talk about that they decided to see a movie after and made their way to the nearest cinema for a good flicks. They didn't take a cab, but roamed the streets chatting and laughing and asking for directions until they found the nearest cinema in the area. It was a grand place too, Eva observed. And she felt like a bird as she walked hand in hand with her brother like the good old days. They settled on a comedy film and bought VIP tickets. It was the happiest Eva had been in a long time. Her day had started badly but was finally ending well. She would definitely visit Grandma Ellis's grave to say thank you. She arrived home very late at night for the first time since her 3 years of marriage. She did not expect Craig to be home. But surprisingly, she found his favorite car in the driveway, indicating his presence. He would inquire about her whereabouts from the maids all right and would get nothing out of it. She was never sharing her outing information with them for his benefit anymore. She walked closer to his beloved ride and stared frostily at it. For an instant, she felt a strange hate flow through her head, like a slight ache to her eyes, and her vision for an instant turned green before normalizing again. She should probably leave him a message before retiring to sleep. And she did. The house was empty when she finally walked in, everyone having retired to bed. Early the next morning, she went to the garage for her bicycle. As usual, no driver was available to attend to her. Craig never liked the bicycle and had had it disposed of in the garage 2 years ago. Immediately he'd seen her ride it into the compound. It was still in good shape as she'd always used and serviced it from time to time behind his back. Now, she was done hiding. As soon as she reached the compound's driveway, she mounted her bicycle and rode out far into the countryside where her Grandma Ellis had lived and died. As much as she'd been crazy about Craig back then, her grandma had never liked him. She tolerated him but never hid her dislike of him. Thus, Craig thwarted all the invitations she'd sent for Eva's visit. Thanks to the maid's purposeful diversion of her letters directly to his table. The house telephones were tapped too, so that her every conversation and movement after always came to his notice and ended up being cancelled. It had broken her heart when she'd overheard the maids whispering and tittering about how stupid she'd been, all the while enduring emotional and verbal abuse that stung more than physical assault. She was filled with nostalgia the moment she rode into the compound of the old classic Greystone mansion that has been Grandma Ellis's home. She could hardly believe it was now hers, unchanged like it had been many years ago when she was younger. Parking her bicycle at the front, she made her way around the massive house to the backyard where the graveyard was. Yes, the house did have a graveyard where centuries of Grandma's ancestors had been buried. One reason why Gabriel had sounded kind of relieved when he'd informed her about her inheritance of the old house. A small smile brightened her face as the memories came rushing back. She was the only grandchild who'd loved this house after Grandma. And now it was hers. As soon as she identified Grandma Ellis's tombstone, she placed some flowers she'd picked at the front yard at the base of it, apologizing for not being around to keep her company since she'd married Craig. The jerk had hampered her movement so much she'd not even been able to visit Grandma Ellis in her final days at the hospital. The pain of it brought tears to her eyes. Craig never abused her physically. But the emotional abuse was devastating. She let the tears flow freely and almost died of shock when a hand from nowhere reached out to wipe the tears from her face. It was a ghostly hand, from Grandma Ellis's tomb. Rearing back in alarm, she watched as the spirit of her grandma rose out of her tomb, and spoke to her with a voice not of the living, but of the vengeful dead. "Here now," she began, "and right early. Finally I can rest and be gone from this place of waiting. Had you been with me, I'd have told you all you needed to know about what is to come. But you chose a prison in Craig. A good 3 years wasted. No matter, you're a smart girl and will figure this out on your own. All you need to know is in my private study. I will be most fulfilled if you use what I have given you very well. It was yours all along. I tried to hold it much longer and mighty good it has done me." Anger replaced fear halfway to Grandma Ellis's revelation, and her normal vision turned laser green. She began to walk away as the ghost spoke, but the voice was in her head, not in the distance where it actually stood. The anger she felt was so overwhelming she felt she had to vent it out on someone or something. Wherever such anger had come from, she did not know. But she did not hesitate. She needed to find out what was happening to her as she made her way angrily back into the house and Grandma Ellis's private study. Determination etched on her face as she marched into the house, her vision still flashy green. It was now or never. She was not leaving this house until she understood what Grandma Ellis been talking about. And so it was. 4 days after her disappearance, Craig was at the end of his rope. He had run fresh out of stories to tell concerning his wife's whereabout. The maids gossiped, his staff whispered, his family murmured, and he was no longer at ease. Even his mistresses could not brighten his mood no matter what they did. It was therefore a relief when his phone rang with the first hopeful news he'd heard since her disappearance. Eager to hear from his chief bodyguard, who had insisted they communicate face to face and not on phone, he hurriedly left his mistress without a care about her welfare and rode on home on his bike. He hurried to his room, dismissing all the maids so he could have a one-on-one chat with his chief bodyguard. At the news that she was last seen riding into the countryside on her bicycle, which he hated with a passion, he knew where she was. Her late grandma's mansion. The nerve she had, playing rebel for the first time since their marriage. He'd forbade her from going there 'cause Madame Ellis hated him without argument. And he didn't want bad advice turning her rebellious. Well, now he'd managed that himself and he was going to fix it. He ordered his bodyguard to go with 2 more of his men over to Madame Ellis's place and drag her back here where he could teach her a lesson. He'd married her for his own gain and she would continue to be his mannequin for as long as he desired. She'd been his parents' recommendation, not his choice. It was either her or he lost everything. He was not going to go easy on her now. Boyd Mercer, the chief bodyguard, called 2 of his colleagues to follow him immediately. It was a long ride, but they soon arrived at Grandma Ellis's mansion. The silence of the place unnerved them. There was no noise whatsoever. Not of chirping birds or talking people. The place looked like no one lived there, yet, the gates were unlocked, indicating that someone was home. They quietly saw themselves into the reception room until some noise outside caught their attention. "She's definitely here," Boyd confirmed, following the noise till they found a door that led outside the reception room to an abandoned garden. The garden seemed long untended to and forgotten. But that was not all. The place was filled with statues, an unusual amount of them, like there had been one last shipping overload that never got sold before Madame Ellis passed away. "Where is everyone?" one of the guards asked incredulously. "Quiet doesn't usually creep me out, but this one sure is," another guard said, slowing down to study the statues. Boyd inspected the statues with the others and soon began to feel uneasy. The statues were of both people and some of animals, all from different eras. The further they moved into the statuary, the more Boyd felt these were not mere statues but more. "Maybe these are the people who once graced this place," one of the guards teased, although in a low voice, as if in answer to Boyd's thoughts, making him more uneasy. He was about to scold the guard who had spoken to stop all forms of jokes when they heard her speak from a distance. But of course, she began with the voice of many hissing snakes. "You have come to join them." They zeroed in on Eva immediately, but the sight that greeted them was horrific. So horrible that they knew they were dead long before it was over. They felt the lives draining out of them as they stood in shock and surrender. And Eva smiled at the sight of the newest addition to her ancestors' statuary. She now knew where Grandma Ellis had built her fortune from, and she intended to continue in that path. She did not like what she had become, but if it gave her the power to turn the world her way, she would embrace it with open arms. No more would she be the oppressed. Now, she would be the oppressor. When the bodyguards did not report back to Craig by the next day, he panicked and sent 3 more of his men to Grandma Ellis's mansion to confront his wife. But 2 days passed too and they neither returned nor reported back to him. He sat down in quiet reflection at the present order of things. The 6 bodyguards he had sent to bring her back by force simply seemed to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Their families and friends had already started to call in panic and worry. And Craig had nothing to say to them. What was really happening? Had she harmed them or something? Or did they just lose their way? The Eva he knew was harmless, although she did get mad bursts of anger that shocked him once in a while. And he could not put a finger to this most recent development. Going to confront her himself was totally out of the question. If 6 of his guards could not do that, How could he, being one man, do anything about it? He thought of calling the police when a maid walked in with an ornately enveloped letter which she placed on his desk before leaving his home office. It looked so different and important that he knew he had to see it immediately. It even had a wax seal. In this day and age? Curious, he tore open the envelope and read through the contents, feeling lost the more he read. Dearest Craig, it read. I have finally reached the end of my long suffering and tolerance of you. I will do whatever I wish to do from now onwards. You were never good to me even though everyone else thought you were amazing. Everyone envied me not knowing the facade you created was that of whitewashed tombstones hiding rotting corpses. From the day I said, I do, my emotional torture began. No one was coming to save me. So I have saved myself. I am taking over Grandma's business full-time and will no longer be at your beck and call. I will not dissolve the marriage, not to save your face, but for my own special reasons. My movements shall no longer concern you henceforth as yours have not concerned me since day one of our cursed marriage. And any attempt by you or your minions to cause me problems will be met with the same fate as that of your bodyguards. Till we meet again, Eva. The paper crumbled to ashes immediately he was done reading, causing him to back off his study chair in fright. He knew what this was, black magic. What had Eva turned into? What had he pushed her to turn into? He could not divorce her all right, but could he endure her now? Could he really endure what he'd made her endure for the past 3 years of their marriage? Lightning flashed outside and he thought he saw a silhouette outside his window before the darkness returned again. Was Eva now a living ghost come to haunt him for his sins against her? Had he, like Macbeth, finally murdered sleep with his own 2 hands?